If you live in the Heathrow area, you're going to want to know about this latest development. Environmental campaigners against Heathrow expansion have condemned a government decision not to review its policy on the scheme. The Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, has decided it's not appropriate to review a document right now, which was at the centre of the legal row over the potential environmental impact of a third runway. On the basis, of course, of climate change and carbon policy. It's one of the things that many campaigners have raised. Well, the government says it won't consider reviewing the policy until after the Jet Zero strategy has been finalised, which aims to reach net zero variation in the UK by 2050. The consultation for that closes tomorrow. Heathrow says the decision recognises the benefits of expanding the airport. But let's chat to somebody who was hoping this decision wouldn't come in. Paul McGuinness is chair of the No Third Runway Coalition. And just tell me, what's your initial reaction then to this decision?
Well, good morning, Brigitte. Yes, well, you're right to say that some people are very fed up with this news indeed. Of course, it is disappointing. But there's also a sense that the government has squandered an opportunity to abandon Heathrow expansion. And there's also a strong sense that there's a whiff of illogicality about it. And you rightly sort of point out the carbon issue. They recognise that there is a significant and unforeseen change in circumstances since the time that Heathrow got the go-ahead in Parliament, and yet don't seem to be able to follow through that logic. Don't seem to be able to follow through the consequences of their carbon policy. That's despite the fact that another branch of government, the Climate Change Committee, has advised them that there can now be no net expansion of UK aviation. You mentioned the Jet Zero consultation. Yes, absolutely. It's on the point of closing. But it's an aviation-led issue, really. The council is even chaired by an executive at Heathrow. And the very strong sense that we have, really, is that they're just sort of trying to seek a reprieve.
One thing the government has said in their decision, though, Paul, is that actually the door is open for review at some point in the future. Is that not then good news?
Well, I think that is right. So I'm slightly surprised by the Panglossian view that Heathrow have put on this themselves. I think really it's a little bit of kicking the can down the road rather than grabbing the bull by the horns, as logic would dictate. And this Jet Zero consultation looks broadly at two things, one of which is sustainable aviation fuels, the other, believe it or not, is zero-emission aircraft. But these can be no more than pipe dreams, really, for the next half a century. And they've also suggested that they're going to wait until the final stages of the Environment Bill on air quality before they review. Strangely, that only occurs this week. And when it comes down to it, the stats remain the same. And you mentioned the third runway, but in truth, it's not really a third runway. And the project entails adding a landmass, which is larger than Birmingham Airport, to fly as many planes as Gatwick currently does. So it's really a question of building a new airport next to Heathrow, which is already statistically the most disruptive in the world, and which is already the single largest emitter of carbon in this country.
Paul, I appreciate you bearing with the fact that you've got a reversing lorry coming in and out. This always happens to me when I'm out in the BBC Radio Berkshire van. We'll persevere with just one more question. And Paul McGuinness, by the way, is here, chairman of the No Third Runway Coalition. I wonder if you could just bring it down to how this affects us here in Berkshire, because we're actually living with an airport on our doorsteps, and in many respects it's fabulous. It brings in business and employment for many local people. How then does it affect you in a negative way that you are so passionate about this?
Well, I think there are a large number of people actually in Berkshire who are very opposed to this project, and that of course is felt most acutely by those who are underneath the flight path. Many of those have been living now for years under this spectre, and they would really like to see logic being dictated and see this spectre being removed from their lives once and for all. And there are many people, of course, outside of Berkshire and outside the immediate environment of the airport who are also living under flight paths and are horrified at the prospect that it is suggested that an extra 50% should be added to the number of flights that Heathrow produces.
All right, we'll leave it there. Paul McGuinness is chairman of the No Third Runway Coalition. The Department of Transport told us the Secretary of State has decided that it's not appropriate to review the airport's national police policy statement at this time. And this will be reconsidered after the Jet Zero strategy has been finalised and we have more certainty about the longer-term impact of COVID-19 on aviation. With that mention of COVID-19, actually, I want